A discovery at Yoshinogari forces us to rethink a familiar story about ancient Japan. For years, the standard picture said Bronze Age know-how was mostly a foreign import that trickled in slowly to a society still finding its footing. But deep in the soils of the Kyushu site, archaeologists uncovered evidence that flips that assumption. Stone casting molds showing that key parts of bronze technology were being made on Japanese ground roughly 2,000 years ago, forged in fire at the dawn of the Yayoi era. To see why this matters, step into the Yayoi period, about 300 BCE to 300 CE, when wet rice agriculture spread, permanent settlements expanded, and populations soared. Textbook summaries often assume that prestige bronze items, swords, mirrors, ritual bells, arrived as finished imports from the Asian mainland, especially via the Korean peninsula, with local artisans learning to imitate them later. The idea that a large, technically capable production center existed in Japan right at the beginning of this transformation sounded unlikely. Yoshinogari challenges that assumption and demands a closer look. Set in Saga Prefecture on Kyushu, Yoshinogari is one of the largest and best-studied Yayoi settlements. Moats and fences, watchtowers, and elite compounds point to complex organization and early governmental structures. In recent excavations inside a long-restricted mystery area, teams even exposed a massive stone coffin on a hilltop. Hopes that it might immediately identify a specific leader faded because investigators have not yet found human remains or associated grave goods that would reveal who was buried there, but the context still signals power and rank. Just meters away, however, the finds that truly changed the conversation came to light. Archaeologists recovered stone molds carved from serpentinite and quartz porphyry, the actual tools used to cast bronze objects. An ancient metalsmith would incise the precise form of a sword or spear into a two-part stone mold, heat bronze in a crucible or ladle, pour it through a gate, then separate the mold halves to release the cooled piece for trimming and polishing. Finding the molds themselves is the smoking gun. It proves casting was happening here, not just the consumption of finished imports. Dating places at least one mold as early as around 200 BCE, making it possibly the oldest of its kind yet identified in Japan, and pushing organized metalworking at Yoshinogari to the very opening of the Yayoi age. What follows is a new reality. The people of Yoshinogari weren't merely recipients of overseas goods. They ran workshops capable of producing high-value bronze blades and points. Techniques and materials show continental links. One mold uses serpentinite similar to stones employed on the Korean peninsula, but what we see is not simple copying. It's adaptation. Choices of stone, a toolkit that includes molds, and a heat-worked ceramic sherd, likely used to hold or ladle molten metal, and workshop activity now documented on both the south and north sides of the site. That capability would have reshaped local power. Chiefs who controlled production had leverage in warfare and in ritual because bronze served both the battlefield and the sacred. Mastery of casting meant mastery of status. This isn't a clumsy beginning. The double-sided mold design and the selection of suitable stones speak to intentional, repeatable manufacturing. And the setting matters. Yoshinogari was not a small hamlet, but a hub in wider Yayoi networks. Rice-growing countryside, exchange routes, and social hierarchies all intersected here. Local casting capacity reduces dependence on distant suppliers, stabilizes access to weapons and prestige goods, and helps explain how a large settlement could consolidate authority. It also fits the agricultural story. Safeguarding fields, organizing labor, and signaling rank all benefit from reliable access to bronze equipment and symbols. There are limits and open questions worth keeping in view. The molds are fragments, so reconstructions of exact products and workshop layouts remain probabilistic. Dating rests on excavation context and comparative typology rather than inscriptions. Influence from the mainland is undeniable, but the balance between imported expertise and local innovation still needs finer resolution. Even so, the core point stands. By the late 3rd to 2nd century BCE, people at Yoshinogari were casting bronze, and that local craft helps explain the scale and cohesion of the settlement. The Yoshinogari site is a rare window into a society in the making, fields and moats outside, workshops and authority inside. If this glimpse of ancient innovation changes how you think about early Japan, subscribe for more evidence-first Japanese archaeology that follows the trail of molds, metal, and rice to show how technology and society grew together. The discovery of stone molds here is more than a lucky find. It's a puzzle piece that forces the whole picture into sharper focus. It challenges old assumptions and reveals a community more independent and technologically capable than many accounts allowed. It's a major step toward understanding how this powerful Yayoi center grew and how metallurgy, agriculture, and leadership combined to shape a new world. And it leaves one compelling question. What else is still buried at Yoshinogari, waiting to refine the story again?